Welcome to Into the Metaverse, the NFT Network podcast. For those of you not familiar, we are a platform designed to showcase unique projects who aim to drive innovation on the Solana blockchain. We provide project verification, data tools, a launchpad, and other valuable assets that help individuals looking to innovate and achieve their goals.
Skull Division. The way this is going to work is we're going to host it as an interview type AMA. And as the time goes on, as we get to the end, we'll bring it up to the public for questions where anyone's able to hop into the space. Everything we say here will be recorded, and you can listen to it again on Audius or on SoundCloud. So that being said, let's give it up for Skull Division. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. This is Dali Kamas, by the way. I am the founder and the artist behind Skull Division. We've been working on this project for about 3 months now, so it's been a lot of fun. I'm not sure if you want me to just jump into how we started or if you have any questions in particular.
Yeah, so just start off on giving everyone an introduction of what Skull Division is.
Sure.
What's the vision for the project?
Skull Division came about because I was analyzing what was happening with the NFT community on Solana, and I felt like a lot of the collections were shifting towards a passive income model at that time. It was a craze, I would say. Yeah, it was, I think it was early August around, no, I would say actually it was early September when I picked up on it. And I thought that there was probably a better way to do this without putting yourself at risk of getting in trouble with the government and things like that. So that's the reason why I started trying to find solutions for this. And another thing I noticed was that a lot of people were just out there creating these cash grabs, and the money was not going back into the ecosystem. So with that, I figured the best way to support other communities is by building something. And at the time, I didn't know what it would be, but something that would support them as well. And I thought, since we have the ability to create utilities with NFTs in any way that we choose to, I thought that this would be a great solution. So the idea is that with Skull Division, if you pair any great verifiable NFT with a skull, a portion of our royalties will go to that collection. So to me, it was a way to bolster the endowments that you would receive to a certain collection that you would pass down to a certain collection that you're a fan of. So even if Skull Division rises massively, for example, and for whatever reason, the collection that you believe in and you believe in their leadership, whatever it may be, for whatever attachment you may have to them, you would have an avenue to provide them with extra income so they can continue building. And sometimes I feel like it's important to mention that there are good projects out there, but maybe they don't have the recognition. So this would be an opportunity also for the community members from those certain communities to come in and network with other people. So it was always meant to be also a cross collaboration space.
So to sum that all together, you guys are really creating a space where you kind of take other projects that are in the space and find a way to have one place where they can all collaborate and move forward together.
Exactly.
Well, you also kind of like open up a competition between the projects in a sense.
I guess you could say it's somewhat of a friendly competition, just because there are stakes involved. I know, for example, there are a few projects in particular that see this as an opportunity to prop up their projects, and they're sending people our way because they see the benefit of what this could become, and they see it as another form of income. Also, because there's other things that we're building alongside of this that will also help these other collections be bigger as well and more productive as well. Is the goal.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure that we go over that one more time. So if you have a Skull Division and you link it with any great verifiable NFT, a portion of the royalties from Skull Division will go to that project, right?
That is correct. And so how that would as far as the royalties, it's really dependent on how many holders there are in general that project, and it also depends on rarities as well of the skulls themselves. So currently we have 5 different rarities, and they all have different skull points attached to them. And the idea is that We're never gonna say we're gonna give out a fixed soul price. So what it is, it's a percentage of whatever our royalties break out to be. Currently, we're looking at 40% of our royalties going to DAOs. And so how it's going to work is we're going to add up all those points and then divvy them up between collections. So, like for example, if you get a mythic skull, it's considered to be worth 10 skull points. If you get a common skull, it's considered to be two skull points. So that gives you an idea that the rare ones will generate more income for those for the DAOs or the collections themselves. And
Where?
another thing that
Oh,
that I
go
should probably mention, I apologize, is that with every collection, they have different ratios that will create different kind of returns. So I'll explain it to you this way. So we're doing it by a multiplier of 10,000. So DAA has, let's say, 10,000 in their collection. So they just get a regular 1x. You know what I mean? So if they have a common skull, it's only going to be worth 2 points. Whereas SMB, if they have a common skull, it's worth 4 points because their collection is a lot smaller. So that way, about that, I had a call coming in. So they get a little bit of more of a boost because they have a smaller community in theory. So that's how we came up with the pointer system. And even Thugbirds, for example, they're a third of the size of DAA, so their multiplier would be a 3x.
okay. So basically, the points are all even based on the group that you're in, right?
Exactly.
So what happens if, let's say, I'm an SMB Mac, smallest, and then I realize I like my Thugbird community a lot more, and I want to take my contribution of royalties from SMB. I want to attach my skulls to my Thugbird now. Is that something that's possible, or once you're locked in, are you locked in?
No, what we're building out is a dashboard where you can control that. So snapshots will be taken daily and verified through Grape. And the idea behind that is that we will average out those biweekly, and that's how we'll determine the total skull points. So any time throughout the day, you can go ahead and change out your how you have them linked. And that proprietary dashboard is something we're building out alongside with the Grape verification. So we'll use that just to cross check daily.
And how does the pairing work? Is that just through Grape, or can you explain that a little bit?
No, that's something that we're building out on our own. So it's going to be separate. So actually Static is going to be putting that together for us. I'm sure with some help with some friends who probably worked on Solana for it, and so that's something that we're currently building out. So I'm working on the UI for that.
Is that part of that dashboard?
The pairing?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much the premise behind it. And eventually, what I'd like to do is have another dashboard that shows the like head of collections, different analytics as well. So that's going to be more of a phase two. And that will be beneficial in the sense because collections will see which wallets are contributing, and then they can take it upon themselves to reward those holders.
It sounds interesting. Based off of what I'm hearing right now, it kind of sounds like you guys are supporting like the larger cap community. Is there a plan, like let's say like a new community pops up in the future, some community that ends up getting a ton of hype? I mean, there's a lot of communities that they have a way smaller floor price, but still have just as solid of a community. Can any community come in and buy these Skull Division NFTs to be able to support their DAO, or is it only limited to a certain pre-selected number of groups?
The only limitation right now that we have is, well, I guess the only hurdle or barrier of entry would just be that you're Great Verified. Aside from that, we'll be onboarding a lot of other communities. We're starting out with the first 8 and how we chose those 8. But the idea is that we want everybody to be able to participate as long as we can verify their NFTs.
Are you in liberty to discuss which 8 are a part of the initial?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's been publicized. So we're starting out with SMB, Thugbirds, Aurori, Degenerate Apes, Pesky Penguins. We have Solsteads, Grim Syndicate, and the Solarians.
Wow, a lot of big projects are in on this.
Yeah, the idea was that, I mean, quite frankly, I feel like, yeah, it helps with marketing, but we also looked at the important part was to look for communities that reflected 3 of the values that I think that I'd want our community to uphold, which are high quality art, a community that works together, and a way to have utility and added value. So that's really what we're looking at when we're looking at all these 8. And that's how they were selected.
Would you say that Skull Division is more than just providing additional income to these communities? It's more about uniting them together?
I could 100% back that. I mean, there was And when I first started working on this, it was a situation in which I was actually able to connect these larger communities that were otherwise siloed. I feel like what ends up happening is that people spend so much time in their discords that there is a lack of cross collaboration in that way. So even as I take a lot of pride in just spending a lot of time trying to talk to people and learning, and that's pretty much how I got to this point, uh, just in general. Because honestly, if I wasn't inquisitive and I didn't ask certain questions, there's no way I would have came up with this idea. This is a like an amalgamation of everybody giving me input. I like I want that school division to be a reflection of that.
Yeah, I really love that you guys are doing that. Because like right now, like I'm in a lot of these communities, and I also myself just don't have time to keep up with a million different discords. And like having a like one community that kind of unites them together, where I'm recognized as a holder of multiple things, and I could talk to multiple people that are also a part of multiple communities. It would be a really cool DAO to have. It's kind of like a DAO of all DAOs, and that's what you guys kind of branded yourself as from the
Yeah,
beginning.
100%. I just wanted to say that, yeah, DAO for all DAOs is really the concept. Not, I didn't want to make it seem like we're superior in that sense, but just more so that this is a place for everybody come. I started using the term the metropolis of DAOs, so that way we can all collaborate. I just feel like if, this is a conversation that I had from Birdman of Thug Birds, as far as like just even founders communicating more often, because I feel like there are ideas that we share with each other at times, and that maybe we wouldn't have come to those conclusions had we not had those conversations, and if we just put our heads down and just focus on our own projects. So that's one thing that I'd like to encourage more of, and the same could be said about the community. And that's one thing I like to stress to my guys is that, um, you know, if it wasn't for um, a community in which I could reach out to others and ask for advice, I would never be in this position. If I didn't have people that were willing to answer my questions. So that's why I feel like it's important to, even as a leader in the space, I want to make sure that people understand that we're here uh, to to serve people as well. There's a certain style of leadership called servant leadership, and I truly believe that in it because you just never know who you're going to help, man. You can end up helping one of the brightest minds in the space, and it elevates us all. So that's the way I like to operate. I think it's important because at the end of the day, man, I come from nothing. You know what I mean, and I know what that's like. But and I don't say that I did it on my own because there's always people that help you up along the way.
Yeah, for sure, man. I completely agree with you. It's like you just want to help advance the whole ecosystem. It seems like, is that kind of your long-term vision for Skull Division?
Yeah, it always has been. I just like I have that same sentiment that everybody else does. If we're able to help each other out, we'll all do better because of it. And I feel like it doesn't have to be full on greed that we have to like that we should take on or emulate, because there's plenty of there, as you guys can see, like everybody who's involved in the space early, there's plenty for everybody. So there's no reason to be greedy, and I think that's one of the most important takeaways of what we're trying to build.
Most definitely. I really like what you said specifically about uniting founders of projects together, because there's really that lack of kind of like cross collaboration, as you said earlier. Like if we all were to talk with each other and kind of talk about what works, what doesn't work, and provide that alpha to each other, we could help push that back to all of our communities individually. And that's what goes the farthest way. You know, we all have voices in our own way, in our own community. People look up to us in different ways, and if we're all holding each other accountable and pushing the space forward, that's what's most important.
So I actually had a question, Dolly. So I know how long you've been working on this project, and to say the least, a lot has changed in the Solana NFT space since you've begun this project. And I know that this was something that was very necessary and something that the space needed at the time. But as you've worked on this project and as time goes by, is there anything else that you've sort of realize that you want to incorporate into Skull Division that you didn't realize that the space might need when you came up with the idea? Because it's been about like almost 2 months now that you've been working on this project, right?
Yeah, and it's evolved plenty of times, to be quite honest with you, Payne. It started off as something that I wanted to actually do revenue shares initially. If you read my first Medium article, it says that I wanted to have rewards for users, but I felt like that was not a viable solution in in the current climate that we're in. So that was one aspect that's already changed, and we made it more so that we provide the values to the DAOs. And another thing is that it benefits the DAOs to push us as well. You know what I mean? So we create a certain synergy through it, as far as like they should want to help us out as well. And I feel like a lot of people have bought into it because they see the potential of what it could be. So that's one of the biggest things that I would say is that changed. Is initially I did want to help out our holders because I feel like to a certain extent people want I hate to say it, but they do want instant gratification. You know what I mean? And unless they see that they're getting paid sometimes directly, uh, they are not as haste. They don't act with the same haste. So that's one thing that has shifted, and I know that initially I wanted to do both. You know, I wanted to do all the things. I thought, I was a little bit like had this vision of just being able to do it all, and I started to realize that the simpler I keep this thing, and the more focused, and the more successful it'll be, because people will have a better understanding of what it is. But another thing to answer your question that I have added to it. To the game plan is also helping out new collections get some visibility. The people who are looking to launch, and we're doing that by way of airdrops as well. So we plan on keeping an airdrop model incorporated into Skull Division, in which we'll take up and coming collections before mint, and we'll try to develop strategies for them to stand out as a product. So I plan on coming up with airdrop strategies in which there are rarities included and different utility as well. Because and those will be in limited amounts, so that could be maybe we'll rotate through collections. I think we'll have our community decide as far as how we want to go about that. But I think it's important to come up with solutions to have these projects stand out. And I think just being involved in the space myself, I think there are unlimited possibilities as far as what you can do. So I just want people to start thinking outside of the box and just, there's always that meme joke that projects come out and they offer a DAO and artwork and think they're going to succeed. And it just, quite honestly, it doesn't work that way. There's oversaturation, as we all know. So we have to just start thinking outside of the box. And I want to be a part of that and helping these communities figure it out, because there's a lot of great talent out there. But unfortunately, the art itself, most of the time, is not going to be the reason why you succeed.
Yeah, man, I totally see where you're coming from. You know,
Do you? Oh, go ahead.
no, I forgot what I was gonna say now.
Do you ever feel that art can be enough if it is good art?
Absolutely.
Because so many people push for utility. They say utility, utility, utility. Right when the fucking collection drops, they expect a million things to be created for them.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
It takes time.
Yeah, art can be successful, I think, but I think that also at the rapid pace that we're moving, it's hard for to create that quality art and the time frames that we're currently dealing with, as far as building something out. So I think in order to have that established, I think that's going to come later down the line. I think, quite frankly, what you're going to see is a lot of one artists start seeing a lot of success, and I think that's really going to start drawing in a lot of the skilled artists into our space, and I think that's when we'll start seeing that development again. I think it's all in cycles, though, and I think we have yet to get to that point, because it does take time to develop those type of larger collections.
It also takes time for people to find that appreciation of it. So right now we're in a phase of profile picture NFTs where everything either has some utility that's promised, and so people mint a huge amount of the collection, or they mint these huge collections between 4,000 to 10,000 supply, and they can either deliver on their utility or they promise all this utility and can't provide, and then that in the end of the day, it's just about being in the community. Yeah, I definitely think we're gonna head that way too. Very
It's funny
excited to see what's to come.
I think
What's
that
that?
it's been pretty interesting how we see the rotation of starting with larger collections at 10K, then it dropped down to smaller numbers. You had the 6Ks, 4Ks, and now we're seeing 1,000 succeed. You know what I mean? So I think it all happens in cycles. But
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to mention as far as skull division, the reason why we chose a larger number as opposed to what the market is leaning towards now is because we want to make sure that we have enough skulls to distribute between all the communities if we needed to. So that's the reason why we went with something a little larger, not the full 10K, but a sweet spot in my opinion.
Well, that makes sense with what you're doing because you're also trying to build the community. You're trying to build a big community that unites other communities together. So you still need that user base, that large user base, to be a part of your community. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was the whole idea behind it. So obviously we couldn't go with 1,000. That was just never going to work. So
yeah. And to go back about what you were saying about like kind of the evolution of us going from 10,000 to 5,000 to 4,000 and now 1,000. It's really interesting to see how fast our space actually moves forward. Because a week ago we would have all agreed that okay, one soul mint is fair, or maybe 2 weeks ago we would have agreed that, and then it innovates to okay, now we should be doing these stealth launches that are 0.1 soul, focused on 1,000 to 2,000 supply, keep it low supply so it can be successful, keep it a low mint so there's a lot of upside value, there's not too many bag holders, and it's really interesting to see how our space moves forward so quickly. Because name one other space that changes that fast. I can't.
yeah, I kind of equate it to when you're reading charts. You know what I mean? You have that hyperbolic period where well, I mean, it just goes insane. You know what I mean? And you get a giant shot up and it comes crashing down. So that's kind of the first initial fluctuations is where we're at. And I think eventually the waves will start decreasing and things will level out a little bit. But yeah, going back to what you said, as far as how we wanted to, I know to a certain extent, there might be a certain point where this collection, everything might be locked up. You know what I mean? Especially when we're talking about V2 and the ideas we have for that. So we have thought about that as well. What happens when we have a ton of collections and all the skulls are locked up and there's no liquidity for funds? And one thing that I was talking to the team about is potentially coming out during phase 3 or phase 4 with a second set of Gen 2 set of skulls. In which those would actually yield less percentages than the Gen 1. And so that way we would still have ways to collect revenue. But that's something that we will decide as a DAO. So that's just an idea for now that I think would be very effective. But I think we'll have to decide it as a community.
Oh, one quick question about the revenue. Are you guys allocating any of the initial mint funds to these projects, or is it strictly based off the aftermarket revenue?
It's going to be aftermarket. The way we see it, we're already giving up 1/4 of our supply. So that's like, if you think about it that way, that's like 25% of what we have. And we still have to build out software and, different features. So it's not, I think we need to keep that in mind too, and make sure that we have enough to build out what we have in mind.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I know how much time you've been putting into this. Me and you have been having conversations about this for, as far back as I can remember. Since I was working on my project, you started pitching me the idea for yours.
Yeah.
And it sounded amazing. And it's crazy to see that you were this close to launch after we've been talking about it for so long. Oh,
I know. A lot of people don't, they don't realize that I've been working on this for a while, man. But it's worth it, man. Honestly, even the slow build of the community was something that I'd like to speak on, because that's something that has been incredible. A lot of the guys that have been with me, they've been there since the beginning, like even like the first week of launch, and they stuck around for like damn near 2 months, and now that some of them are moderators, they're all fantastic. But it gave us an opportunity to really get to know these guys, you know what I mean, and know their temperament and how they are, and like I say, man, I'm a student of the game, so I like to observe things like that and just pay a lot of attention and detail into these kind of things, because I genuinely think it's important. This is a part of building relationships, and it comes with my background as well, man. I'm a user experience designer, so I build out interfaces for sites, and for me, it's important to realize what people want and and cater to that.
I like that you got into that, because I really wanted to make it clear to everyone. Like, I want people to know who is actually behind this project. So if you can you give us a whole description of the whole team and the killers you got on your squad?
Yeah, man, that's That's a hell of a statement, but it's pretty much true. So I'll start with myself, man. I've been designing since I would just say over half of my life. You know, ever since I was a kid, I hopped into Photoshop. I used to be in a web design program in high school. So I've been doing layouts for a very long time. And I got into Photoshop because I got tired of using templates. So I hopped into this space, and so I've been doing this, man, since I was like 16 years old. I got a job early at agencies, and I've been working at tech startups for a while, and now I lead a UX team at a corporate company. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite some time. It's been a lot of fun. I've also been before that is just not, I wasn't just doing UI and UX. I was also doing branding. As some of you know, I used to do music back in the day too. So that's another thing that drove the design passion as well. I was doing flyers, and I used to make album covers and things like that back in the day. So I'm actually pretty well rounded when it comes to design, and even music as well. Video editing, I do a little bit. I dabble. So anything that has to do with creativity, I enjoy doing. I started up a t-shirt company back in the day too. So I played with entrepreneurship pretty much my whole life. Uh, I see you laughing, King shit, but hey, listen, man. Sometimes you'd be surprised what I was able to do with that. But it's quite fascinating. I just like to experiment and tinker, and I feel like every experience in my life has led me to this point. It's been like a great culmination. So I'm excited about it because I'll go back even to crypto, right? I started trading in 2017, and I was terrible at it. Like, I'm not competing with these giga brands when it comes to that, but when it comes to, and this is something me and Lil A talk about, is that when it comes to bigger picture creative strategy is where I think we both shine. Um, so that's a little bit about me. As far as the team, I have three other guys as the core of the team. So when I first created the Discord, I did not have a team. I just had a bunch of guys from SMB and a few guys from the Solarians in there, and they were just helping me come up with ideas. One of the guys really stepped up, and he was from the Solarians. His name is A Boy. And he went on. Now he's our head of operations, and the guy is amazing, man. He's a machine. So with him and the help of Lieutenant Lollipop from the Sombrero DAO, the Bandito DAO, I apologize. With them, we're able to come up with the point system and as far as how we're going to distribute the royalties to DAOs. So we got that squared away. But his function is mainly looking at numbers because he did work for Digital Eyes. I think he's still doing that as well. So he's with them as well and helping out on the marketplace. So he understands everything as far as the revenues and how, as far as like, wow, what performance is expected. So he's been able to do all the forecasting for us, along with a lot of the organizational aspects of it, whether it's putting together databases for airdrops, all that stuff, forums, whatever you name it, man. These guys have set up an intricate system with Trello boards as well. So all this stuff is super important that a lot of people don't see. That it's kind of like happens in the background, just to keep this project afloat. So that's one guy, Apoid, who's the head of operations, and then we have Static, who came on shortly after. We're looking for somebody to help us with the mint, so we contacted a couple of dev shops, and what we found is at the time, man, there was so much demand that everything was extremely expensive. You were talking about people who wanted like 40 grand up front and then maybe 30% of our royalties. And it just got to be to the point where it was just a lot. And we felt like it was too much. Uh, at the time, honestly, I didn't know directly, but see, that's the advantage, man. If you find some great mentors, they'll advise you. They'll let you know, like, hey, this is a little much, man. This is not even fair. Because at the time, I was ready to risk it all. I was really ready to sell everything I had to make this happen. And fortunately for myself, is I had people in my corner who advised me against it. And that's what kind of led me to Static. Somebody let me know, hey, Static is actually interested in your project, and he would love to help you develop it. And Static, I don't know if you guys know, but he's one of the head developers in SMB. And he builds all the sales bots, and he's kind of all over the place as far as helping people, man. I think everybody knows who Static is if you've been here long enough. So I'm fortunate to have him, man. And he's just been a blessing. The guy works his tail off, and he's just been down since the beginning. And one thing I will say about all my guys is that none of them are greedy. And that's one thing that I wanted to emphasize when I was looking for a team, is to make sure that we didn't have people that were just after the money, and That's where I draw the hard line, because it's important to know that this is a long game. And yes, we all want to get paid, but it's not just about that. You know what I mean? It's about building relationships, and really ultimately that, like, regardless of what happens with the market, like, you can have some money and you can end up losing it. But if you build those type of relationships, they last a lifetime, and you'll have friends for life. So yeah, that's the third guy on our team, and the last one who came on board at the end was a flying horsefish. And flying horsefish is a machine, dude. When I tell you, this guy just blew me away one day because I was needing help with an article, and I told him, I was like, give it a pass and see what you think, man. He made me look like a second grader with my writing, because he's just so skilled, man, when it comes to composing words, man. He just has a talent. So he's our head of content strategy. But the guy does it all. And you talk about somebody who stays on top of it. He's always constantly in the community, talking to people, helping out wherever he can. So a lot of love for everybody involved, man. And that's the core team, those four guys. And I want to give a shout out to the moderators too, man. Those guys are incredible. So we have 8 moderators as well that also help out a lot. And honestly, I don't know that we'd get to this point without them. So thank you all. I know some of you guys are in here now.
So something that you mentioned that I think is really important and that I think is really slept on is like having the right people in your corner, because at the end of the day, like, it's still so early and we're all trailblazing, and it's really easy to, get ripped off or make the wrong mistakes or go with the wrong team or offer the wrong people the wrong percentage of this and that. And I mean, I'm sure you've kind of realized that as you've, journeyed down this path of entrepreneurship yourself. And it's going to help to have a place that someone can go to and say, hey, I know that all the people here are going to point me in the right direction. I know that I can get alpha that's actually going to help me out here. And I think that that's something that's very important, when we're all involved in a space that's, one, so early, and two, filled with so many trailblazers.
You want to know who that was for me? That community was SMB, 100%.
And that's who it was for us too.
Yeah.
It's crazy that since we've began to evolve so quickly, that you're starting to, and kind of made up of a bunch of people that were just trying to figure it out as they went as well. Because I mean, you remember being there, like, before there was any sort of Solana, mainstream Solana exchange. There was only Solana, and it was left for the people in the SMB Discord to sort of figure it out on their own, and figure out how to sort of establish themselves as a community, and figure out how to go about creating a system to trust each other to transact. And that's the stuff that really builds a long-lasting, tight-knit community. Having to sort of go through that sort of process that forces you to get to know each other. So I don't know, I feel like it's definitely a really important point, having people in your corner when you're trying to create, or having a place that you can sort of seek that alpha from.
Yeah, I will say that I actually wasn't an SMB around that time. So I didn't get to experience the whole OTC trading, or even when their site went live. I was actually still just, my biggest bags at the time were Solarians, and I was hitting some flips with the Soul Bears. I actually talked about that today, how I know a lot of people lost a lot of money, but I actually came out okay out of that. That was like one of my biggest flips. So yeah, I didn't necessarily I had relationships with certain people in SMB, but it was all through Twitter, and that's really what drove me to want to purchase my monkey. Was because I saw how helpful they were, and I thought to myself, you know what? If people are this helpful on Twitter, I can only imagine what the DAO's like, and that's what led me to make that decision. I mean, I sold half of everything that I had just to buy a monkey, and I think it was the best decision that I could have made in the whole time I've been in the space. Yeah, when I did that, I got, reached out. I've always made it a point to reach out to people, and I don't know, man. I think a lot of people are fearful to do that, but I think it's so important. Like I was talking to Big Brain early, man. When he had like 2,000 followers, I reached out to him, and he was very supportive. And I think the fact that I did that really early allowed me to have a relationship with him so I can lean on him and ask him questions. Solana Legend was another person who was really awesome and who was the person who convinced me to get my SMB. And then I've been talking to Jemmy ever since I joined SMB, and he's also been one of our biggest advisors. So I'm really thankful to those guys. There's a lot of brilliant minds in that space. Even Hoke took some time to talk to me one night, and I just had a question for him, but he sat there and talked to me for 45 minutes, which was incredible. And then you have Birdman from Thugbirds, and I've actually leaned on him a lot. And as far as leadership, that's one person that I look up to for what he's done and what he's created with that community. And it's been incredible. There's different people too, man, and even I would even say Justin Mazel from Grim Syndicate has also been a major inspiration to me. His leadership style and his how humble he is and how he approaches his project to me is amazing. And then you have Kylie from the Pesky Penguins, who's also an amazing human being, and her vision aligns very much so with mine. So that's what makes me hopeful about the space. There's just so many really, really good people, and that's why I really feel like we're gonna make it for real. As corny as that, but it's true.
Everything you just said really shows what the Solana community is all about. I mean, when we were trying to launch our project, it was the early days too, and we couldn't, like, there was no resources out there. Nobody knew how to launch an NFT. And the only way you could find out would be by talking to people who kind of know the experience of doing it, or know someone who knows someone who knows someone who has done it. And in the early days, SMBs and DJ Apes were like the first ones that were minted. And the SMB community was so helpful. And everyone was willing to help everyone. And I've been in crypto for a very long time, and I haven't seen any type of collaboration where there's people that are willing to help people on that level since I've joined the Solana community. Because really, crypto Twitter used to be such a toxic place. Now it's a place that is trying to build people up and kind of promote success together. Because at the end of the day, we're all building on the same blockchain, and we're all pushing the price up of Solana together by innovating on it.
Yeah, man, I think that's especially that last tidbit is the reason why we're here, man. That's really what I want to do is just keep the money inside of the system in our ecosystem, just to keep propping these projects forward. I think it's so important. Yeah, and I think those projects that value community are also going to have a lot of skulls. Quite simply, if the people really value those projects, I think they're going to try to accumulate some of these to push their favorites forward.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna have to drop the tip in our Discord, so keep an eye out. I think we've covered a lot of the things we wanted to hit. So we're gonna open it up for questions from the audience. Anyone is welcome to come up, ask any question they like, just request to speak, and we'll get you on up here.
Until people come up, I wanted to ask, what was your biggest challenge so far with Skull Division? Like, what is the biggest hurdle? And if you can, like, shine a light to any other artist or creator out there who's also trying to go through a similar process as you.
I think the biggest problem is you can't necessarily present this idea and not show that you've put work into it. You know what I mean? It's a situation where it's gonna take some hard work, and you're gonna have a lot of nights that you're alone and just grinding it out, and nobody else is gonna see the vision but you. And I think that psychologically was one of the toughest hurdles that I had to get past. Uh, but I was so enthusiastic about what I was building that I didn't let it slow me. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I'll say to artists is that even when things get very difficult, just try to dig deep and try to find the inspiration to keep pushing forward. Because eventually, if you put in the work, like they say, if you build it, they will come. And that's really how I've been trying to approach this project. And I don't expect anything from anybody. I don't expect anybody to, uh, you know, just drop everything they're doing to support me and push this project. I don't see it that way. I think genuinely it takes a village, and how I was able to formulate this project was just by asking the right questions And like even people who took out 2 minutes out of their day to answer something somehow contributed to the point that we're at now. So I just think it's important to make sure that you keep pushing and try to keep your balance and staying focused, because it's not easy, but at the same time, most things that are worth it aren't. So you should want to keep pushing forward until you succeed. Another thing that I will say too that was really difficult is that we've been trying to push this project organically without any crazy giveaways or invite contests. So it has taken a lot of creativity as far as our approach and coming up with ideas that would make us stand out. So that's another reason why we've been doing all kind of things, even with the airdrop and how we approach that situation. Uh, as far as so I don't even think we've touched on that. Is we're giving out 1/4 of our supply to those. Well, I guess I mentioned the 8 collections. We are giving 1/4 of our supply to them. So, and that the ratios are all based on their collections themselves, and that's how we distributed that. So we just finished that period. And so we're going through the numbers now, and we're collecting snapshots so we can go ahead and distribute those 2 days before the mint, which is going to be November 16th. So yeah, it's just mainly for me. I'll go back to the marketing. It was a little difficult. So I thought of even an idea where we would have like a skull builder, you know what I mean? So we're building software pre-mint just to get some interaction, and people loved it because they got to see the attributes live, and got to play with it a little bit before, and they got to see the possibilities of combinations, which was really fascinating. And in turn, what we get to do out of that is we get to see what people gravitate towards as far as the traits themselves. So we also get to get a little bit of data and insight as far as like what they actually went to when they were submitting these.
Yeah, that part was so cool about your project. I remember looking at that when you were explaining to me. And I was like, wow, that really brings people in from the community and lets them have like a voice in the overall vision of what you guys are building.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'll actually go ahead and post the skull builder up here right now. Submissions are closed, but what you can do is you can there's a little Easter egg where you click it 5 times where it says Discord, and you can randomly generate skulls. So I'm trying to look for it now, but I'll go ahead and link it up here so people can play with it and see how it worked like. Let's see. So yeah, that was it's little things like that, and even the airdrop idea. I know a lot of people were stoked that we were sending out airdrops even before we minted and it's almost like a piece of history because we're involving these 8 collections that are epic.
Speaking on the airdrop, so I don't know if you mentioned already, but is it closed for people to be able to jump in and get an airdrop of a skull div?
Yeah, unfortunately, we ran it for like 5 days and it filled up pretty quickly. So, but not that we had like a set limit, but we haven't enough as far as to send out.
Right. Is it a certain percentage of your total supply? Sorry,
Yeah,
I missed that.
2,222, 1/4 of it. We initially were thinking about doing 1/2, but we felt like that was a little much and it wouldn't allow us the space to build like we wanted to. With that being said, initially we were supposed to launch on the 11th, but we decided to push it back to make sure that we had everything buttoned up before we did. But we did reduce the price from 1 SOL to 0.66, which is also really exciting for us.
You guys are really getting there now. I even like that you guys pushed your project back, because that really shows that like you guys were taking the time to build that quality, to add those extra benefits, to take the time to make sure that you're not rushing things. You want to
Yeah,
you want to line your cards right to make sure that you put yourself in the most like best possible scenario, because the whole market has been so choppy and people are very uncertain with what they're buying, and giving yourself time to really like prove yourself further is a good thing in my eyes. I think every project should really take time.
yeah, I just think it's better, right? Even if you sacrifice a little bit now, and it's not like we're not going anywhere anyway. So for us, it just made a lot of sense. It's hard because you never want to seem like you're not meeting your deadlines and you're not taking it seriously or anything like that. But I'm hoping that it had the positive effect and having people realize that. Even talking about this now, I think that people will have a different perspective of how much work goes into this. There's just especially a project like this one that's so collaborative in nature, where I'm having to rely on 8 other collections to pass on information or disseminate and get it to their teams. It's a lot. I think if we were just siloed and building this thing on our own, then yeah, maybe we could have had it done 3 weeks ago. But it's just there's more to this project than what meets the eye at surface.
Yeah, and you've really went into detail about like what really goes into a project. A lot of people just want instant gratification and they just want to be serviced, but they don't see the how long it takes to actually build some of these things, how much effort really goes in, and how limited one person can be. Because I mean, I know you have your whole team, but I'm sure you're driving everything forward on a constant basis. I'm sure you're pouring your heart out. I know you have a full-time job as well.
Yeah.
So anytime you have outside of your full-time job, you're focused on this. And most people don't realize that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And they don't realize how long it takes to actually build something that's worth something that will do well long term. So I applaud you for that. You've been doing this for so long.
Thanks, man. It's really exhausting. We've been going at it for like 3 months straight with almost like no sleep. I do work full time. I also have a family, so I know a lot of people don't know about that about me. So I'll just share that between our group. So it is a lot, but I'm hoping that just like anything, if I just keep putting in the work, it'll all be worth it. I plan on actually stepping away from my job shortly after Mint. So this is my transition, and hopefully I could join you real soon on being full-time NFT crypto.
Let's go, man. It's a fucking leap of faith.
I feel like if you're a hustler, man, you can figure it out. You know what I mean? And with that being said, you could always go about doing it the right way without negatively impacting other people. And I think that's an important takeaway, because I feel like a lot of people here don't realize that there are other people behind these computer screens when they're trying to push them to buy something that they know in the back of their minds is not going to really benefit anybody. So that's one thing I try to emphasize to everybody that I work with, is that I'm not here to just take from the community and not give anything back.
That's the way to do it, man. I mean, you're making those connections. You're making all the connections with the right people, and it's really, I mean, my biggest investment thesis is investing in communities and investing in people that are looking to drive something forward, whether it be to innovate or just keep building. I mean, keep it going. And you've made those connections with those people, and you have those people believing in you. And when you have the people that are trailblazing, believe in you, that have already built something, the only way to go is up. Those people are going to take you with them. And that's what's important. And what you're doing at Skull Division by trying to unite all these communities together, it's literally going to turn into an alpha league Discord where everyone's just pushing each other to go forward and be the best person possible that they can be, and set everyone up for the best possible opportunities, because it's going to be a place for collaboration. And that's what matters most in the long term,
Yeah, man, I'm hoping that my story will inspire people to just start speaking up and asking questions. And I invite anybody to do that to me as well. Like, if you're in the audience right now, and if you ever want somebody to get an opinion on, I know one thing that I will say though is, like, as we're growing, obviously it gets harder to communicate and to try to cater to everybody. But I try to do my best and just try to meet people where they're at and see how I could help out. Usually it's easier through conversations like this and spaces than it is to go like sift through the DMs. I will say that. So I am on spaces quite often, almost every day. So if anybody ever has any questions, you can feel free to DM, but also ask for a speaker role in spaces, and we'll be more than happy to help out. I know, and I say that for a lot of people. There's people like, Ceylon hosts these chilling spaces, and when you talk about someone who has a lot of experience even building DAOs and who has been in the space for a while, that's he's a great asset to our community as a whole, and not just him. There's plenty of people like him as well.
Yeah, man. Anyone out here listening to this, because this is going to be a podcast as well, there's people in the space that want to help you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. NFT Netwrk is built to highlight the quality and innovative projects that are looking to expand what we're all building here in the metaverse. And we're looking to give a voice to underrepresented artists, because we understand that it's hard to do everything by yourself. You might be an amazing artist, but you might be bad with business. You might not have any development skills. You might not have the connections to be able to build something like this or reach out to people. We're here to help with that. We're here to provide a platform to people that are underrepresented, and we're here to drive the community forward. And I know Skull Division is here for that too. I know a lot of people in this community is here for that, and that's what I'm most bullish on. So that being said, we're going to wrap it up here, and I want to thank you so much, Dolly and Skull Division and your whole team, for making it out to this. I think you gave a great talk on a lot of things around building a project. I think people really got a good representation of what you guys are in. I think this is going to be one of our best podcasts because there's a lot to unwrap here and a lot of lessons to learn. So thank you, man.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys as well, and I want to give a big shout out to NFT Netwrk because I've seen some of the plans that you guys have in the background that you're looking to execute, and I'm extremely bullish on the project, especially because you guys have experience. You know what I mean? And even with the NFT project that you launched, I think that it's important that people understand that teams with experiences are going to thrive in the space, and especially if you've been around, you start picking up on all these things. And I can't thank you enough, man, because I think you and I have been building since the beginning, and we've kind of leaned on each other for advice. And that's why I keep saying, man, we're really going to make it because we're consistent. You know, we show up every day and we work and we grind. So I'm bullish on a lot of the projects in the space, but especially on what you guys got going as well, along with Skull Division. So yeah, man, let's make it happen.
We all gonna make it. Let's go. All right, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
All right.